1 year after Thermopylae, a man walked onto the battlefield at Plataea who should not have been there. His name was Aristodemus. He was one of the 300, and he was the only one who came home alive.
At Thermopylae, an eye infection had blinded him. King Leonidas ordered him to leave before the final stand. His companion, Eurytus, suffering the same infection, refused. Eurytus walked blind into the Persian lines and died with his brothers.
Aristodemus obeyed his king. He survived, and for that, Sparta destroyed him.
When he returned home, no one would speak to him. No one would share fire with him. They called him Aristodemus the Trembler, the coward. For 1 year he walked through Sparta as a ghost, alive but already dead in the eyes of everyone who mattered.
Now it was August 479 BC. The Persians had returned, and Aristodemus stood in the Spartan line at Plataea, waiting for his chance to die.
He would get it, but not alone.
Behind him stood 10,000 Spartans, and today every single one of them had come to finish what Leonidas started.
The Persian commander Mardonius had made a mistake. He thought Thermopylae had broken the Greeks. He thought killing 300 Spartans would terrify the rest into submission. He was about to learn what Spartan vengeance looked like.
1 year earlier, Xerxes had watched his army destroy Leonidas and his men at the Hot Gates. The Persians had won, but at a cost that stunned them. It had taken 20,000 Persian deaths to kill 300 Spartans. When Xerxes finally walked among the Greek dead, he found Leonidas's body and ordered it beheaded. The head was mounted on a stake. The corpse was left to rot.
This was not Persian custom. Persians respected fallen warriors, but Xerxes was angry, angrier than any Persian king had ever been at a single enemy. Leonidas had humiliated him. 300 men had held an empire for 3 days.
Now Xerxes was gone, sailed back to Persia after his fleet was destroyed at Salamis. But he left behind his finest general, Mardonius, with orders to finish the conquest.
Mardonius had 300,000 men. He had the best cavalry in the ancient world. He had Greek allies from Thebes who had chosen the Persian side. And he had time. All winter, he waited in northern Greece while the Greek city-states argued about what to do. Athens had been burned twice. The Acropolis was rubble. The sacred temples were ash. The Athenians were refugees on the island of Salamis, begging Sparta to help them take back their city.
Sparta hesitated. The Spartans were celebrating a religious festival. They could not march during sacred days. The Athenians grew desperate. They sent messengers threatening to surrender to Persia if Sparta did not act.
Finally, the Spartans moved. The army that marched north was the largest Sparta had ever assembled. 5,000 Spartiates, full citizens, the elite warriors who had trained since age 7 for exactly this moment. 5,000 perioikoi, free men who lived in Spartan territory and fought in the phalanx. And 35,000 helots, slaves who carried supplies, maintained camps, and would fight if needed.
Commanding them was Pausanias, nephew of Leonidas. The dead king's son, Pleistarchus, was too young to lead, so the boy's guardian would finish his father's war.
Pausanias had grown up hearing stories of his uncle. He had trained in the same agoge that produced Leonidas. He carried the weight of a legend on his shoulders, and he understood something that Mardonius did not. The Greeks were not coming to defend their homeland. They were coming to avenge their dead.
The allied Greek army assembled near Plataea in late summer. The numbers were staggering for ancient Greece, 110,000 men, according to Herodotus, though modern historians think 40,000 is more realistic. Spartans held the right wing, the position of honor. Athenians held the left. Between them stood warriors from Corinth, Megara, Tegea, and dozens of other cities. Across the Asopus River, Mardonius arranged his forces. Persians on the left, facing the Spartans. Medes and Bactrians in the center. Greek allies from Thebes on the right, facing their countrymen from Athens.
For 11 days, neither army moved. Mardonius wanted the Greeks to descend from the hills and fight on the plain, where his cavalry would slaughter them. Pausanias refused. He kept his men on the high ground, waiting for the Persians to attack uphill. It was a war of patience, and Mardonius was losing. His cavalry raided Greek supply lines. They captured a convoy of food. They blocked the springs that provided water to the Greek camp. Slowly, Pausanias' position became untenable.
On the 11th night, Pausanias ordered a retreat. The Greeks would fall back to a new position closer to Plataea, where they could access fresh water. The movement would happen in darkness. By dawn, the army would be repositioned and ready.
It was a sound plan. It almost destroyed them.
The retreat went wrong almost immediately. The center of the Greek line moved too early. They marched past their intended position and ended up near the walls of Plataea itself, scattered and confused. The Athenians on the left held their position, waiting for orders that never came, and the Spartans on the right did not move at all.
A Spartan commander named Eurytus refused to retreat. He called it cowardice. He said he would not flee from barbarians. Pausanias argued with him for hours, while the night slipped away. When dawn broke, the Greek army was strung out across miles of terrain. The center was near Plataea. The Athenians were isolated on the left, and the Spartans, finally moving after Eurytus relented, were exposed on the right with no support.
Mardonius saw his chance. Persian scouts reported the Greek confusion. The Spartans were retreating. The line was broken. The Greeks were running. Mardonius ordered an immediate attack.
The Persian cavalry swept forward. Then the infantry followed, wave after wave of soldiers from every corner of the empire. They crossed the Asopus River and charged up the slopes toward the retreating Spartans.
Pausanias halted his men. The retreat was over. They would fight here, now, outnumbered and alone. Before battle, Spartans performed sacrifices to read the omens. If the gods were favorable, they attacked. If not, they waited.
The omens were bad.
Persian arrows began falling on the Spartan line. Men died waiting. The phalanx held formation, shields locked, spears ready, while priests slaughtered animal after animal, searching for favorable signs.
Pausanias looked toward the temple of Hera on the ridge above and prayed aloud. His men were dying. The Persians were closing, and the gods remained silent. Then the Tegeans broke ranks. These were allies from Arcadia, positioned beside the Spartans on the right wing. They could not wait any longer. They charged into the Persian line, screaming.
The omens changed. The sacrifices finally showed favor, and Pausanias gave the order.
The Spartans attacked. What happened next was not a battle. It was a reckoning. The Persians had set up a wall of wicker shields as a barricade. The Spartans hit it like a wave against sand. The wall collapsed. Hand-to-hand fighting erupted across the slope. Herodotus described it. The Persians would lay hold of the Spartan spears and break them. In courage and strength, they were as good as their adversaries, but they were deficient in armor, untrained, and greatly inferior in skill. Sometimes singly, sometimes in groups of 10 men, they fell upon the Spartan line and were cut down. The Persians fought bravely. They were not cowards, but they were not Spartans.
The Greek phalanx was designed for exactly this kind of killing. 8 men deep,
each soldier protected by the shield of the man beside him, bronze armor covering chest, back, and thighs, Corinthian helmets obscuring everything but the eyes, and spears, 8 feet long, designed to thrust over the shield wall into unprotected faces and throats.
The Persians wore cloth and leather. They carried wicker shields and short swords. They had conquered most of the known world with speed, archery, and cavalry charges. Against the phalanx, none of it mattered. And somewhere in that grinding wall of bronze, Aristodemus found what he had looking for.
Herodotus wrote that Aristodemus left his post and fought like a madman. He broke from the phalanx, an act that would normally be considered cowardice, since the formation only worked when every man held his place. But Aristodemus was not trying to survive. He was trying to die.
He charged alone into the Persian ranks. He killed and killed until they brought him down. Herodotus called him the bravest man on the field that day.
The Spartans disagreed. They said he had fought with suicidal recklessness, that true courage meant wanting to live while still facing death. They removed the mark of coward from his name, but they gave him no special honors.
It did not matter. Aristodemus had found his redemption. After a year of silence, he had finally earned a right to join his brothers.
Mardonius saw his army failing. He mounted his white horse and led his personal guard, 1,000 elite Persian warriors, into the thickest fighting, directly at the Spartan center.
It was the last mistake he ever made.
A Spartan named Eremnestus killed him. The sources disagree on how. Herodotus says Eremnestus struck him down with a sword. Other accounts say he threw a rock that crushed Mardonius' skull. Either way, the Persian commander fell from his horse and did not rise.
When the Persians saw Mardonius die, they broke.
The retreat became a rout. Persians fled back across the river toward their fortified camp. The Spartans pursued them every step of the way.
On the other side of the battlefield, the Athenians had problems of their own. The Greek allies of Persia, Thebans, Boeotians, men who had chosen the wrong side, attacked them in force. The fighting was bitter, Greeks killing Greeks. But eventually, the Athenians drove them back toward the walls of Thebes.
Then, both wings of the Greek army converged on the Persian camp.
The camp was fortified with wooden walls. The Persians inside thought they could hold out, regroup, fight another day. The Tegeans reached the walls first and found a way in. The Athenians followed, then the Spartans.
What happened inside the camp was not battle, it was slaughter.
Herodotus wrote that 26,000 Persians died at Plataea. That number is almost certainly exaggerated, but the massacre was real. The Greeks remembered what the Persians had done to Athens. They remembered the temples burned, the sanctuaries violated, the sacred olive tree of Athena cut down. They remembered Leonidas' head on a stake.
They showed no mercy. When it was over, the Greeks found Mardonius' pavilion still standing. It was made of silk and gold, decorated with treasures from a dozen conquered nations. Pausanias ordered a feast prepared using the Persian commander's own kitchens. He served his officers the meal that Mardonius would have eaten that night.
Then he looked at the golden plates, the embroidered cushions, the luxury that surrounded him, and laughed.
"See what fools these Persians are," he said. "They live like this, and yet they came to steal our poverty."
An officer from Aegina approached Pausanias after the battle with a suggestion. The Persians had beheaded Leonidas and displayed his body. Perhaps the Greeks should do the same to Mardonius. Perhaps they should show the barbarians what vengeance looked like.
Pausanias refused.
"Such acts are more fitting for barbarians than for Greeks," he said. "Even in barbarians, we find them hateful."
Mardonius was buried with honor. His body was never found. It disappeared the night after the battle. taken perhaps by loyal servants who wanted their commander to rest in Persian soil.
Pausanias had won the greatest victory in Greek history, but he would not win glory from it. Within years, he was accused of conspiring with Persia, the very enemy he had destroyed. Recalled to Sparta, he took refuge in a temple. His own mother laid the first brick to seal him inside. The Spartans starved him to death in the sanctuary of the gods.
That was later. On the day after Plataea, there was only victory.
The Greeks had killed somewhere between 10,000 and 50,000 Persians. The sources vary wildly. Greek casualties were minimal. Herodotus claims only 159 Greeks died in the main battle, 91 Spartans, 52 Athenians, 16 Tegeans. The numbers seem impossibly low, but the phalanx was designed to minimize casualties among its own while maximizing them among enemies. When it worked, and at Plataea it worked perfectly, the killing was almost entirely one-sided. The same day as Plataea, the Greek navy destroyed the last Persian fleet at the Battle of Mycale across the Aegean Sea. The invasion was over. They would never return to mainland Greece.
In Sparta, the news arrived with something more than victory. The army brought back the body of Leonidas.
The Persians had left his remains at Thermopylae, desecrated and scattered. The Greeks found what they could and carried it home. 40 years later, Leonidas was finally buried with full honors, and games were established in his memory.
The 300 had been avenged. 10,000 Spartans had finished what they started.
But here is what stayed with me.
When Pausanias stood over the Persian camp, surrounded by wealth beyond imagining, he laughed at how foolish his enemies had been. They had everything. They came to steal Greek poverty. The Greeks had almost nothing. Rocky soil, small cities, constant warfare with each other. But they had something the Persians could not buy with all the gold in Susa. They had the phalanx. They had the training. And they had the memory of 300 men who refused to run.
Xerxes thought that killing Leonidas would frighten Greece into submission. Instead, it created something far more dangerous. A nation of men who would rather die than live as slaves.
Mardonius learned this too late. Standing on the plains of Plataea, watching his empire's finest soldiers cut down by farmers and craftsmen in bronze armor, he must have understood finally what Leonidas had known all along.
The Spartans did not come to Plataea to defend Greece.
They came to collect a debt,
And they collected it in blood.